Hello, and welcome to another episode of Guitar and Pen, a songwriter's notebook. I'm Mark Will, author, songwriter, and publisher in permanent exile, currently based on the island of Taiwan. And once again, I'm joined by my good friend Craig Branch of the Can't Find My Way Home podcast. Craig is coming to us live from Germany. How are you
Good,
today?
thanks, Mark. I'm ready to go. First one of the year, and it doesn't feel that long since we did the last one. So I'm hoping we can get a good groove this year and do a few more. But I'm looking forward to this one because it'll be a nice uh, addition to what we did a couple of weeks ago with the Roger Waters Redux.
Yeah, it's kind of a
A companion, that's
companion
the word.
episode to the previous episode. Yeah. So last time, let me just change the slide here. So this is episode 6 of Guitar and Pen, and our focus is David Gilmour's latest album, Luck and Strange. And last time, Guitar and Pen episode number 5, we discussed Roger Waters' Dark Side of the Moon Redux. So yeah, these are kind of bookend episodes, I guess you could say. So let's jump right into it. I think it's significant that we're right around the 50-year anniversary of the release of Dark Side of the Moon. That came out March 1st, 1973. And then, around the time of the 50-year anniversary, Roger thought, well, why don't I just re-record or reimagine Dark Side of the Moon? And so that came out October 6th of, I almost said last year, but it's 2 years ago now, 2023, the day before the events of October 7, oddly enough. It's like we did an episode on texting about Dylan's Love and Theft. You know when that one was released?
Go on.
It came out September 2001. I think Jay-Z's Blueprint did too, but yeah, interesting coincidence. So anyway, I guess Gilmour was thinking along the same lines, like, ooh, I better do something for the 50th year anniversary. So a year after the 50th anniversary, I guess the 51st anniversary, he comes out with this album, Luck and Strange, came out September 6th of 2024.
Can I just interject a little bit with the theme of anniversary? So this year I was going through the
Please.
back catalogue, and I wondered when Wish You Were Here came out, and of course this year will be the 50th anniversary of the Wish You Were Here album. September,
So it came out in
September
75.
75. Yeah?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that because Gilmour said of Luck and Strange, it's the best album
Since
he's worked on since Dark Side of the Moon. So let's think about that, okay? The best album since Dark Side of the Moon. So it's better than Wish You Were Here, better than Animals, better than The Wall, better than The Final Cut. Really? I mean,
I think, what
I
do they
don't know
call
how
this,
you feel
recency
about that,
recency
but
bias? I'm sure.
uh, yeah, I mean, I guess you have to say that for promotional purposes, but come on, son. The best album since Dark Side of the Moon that you've worked on. In fact, I would argue that it's not even as good as the 1984 release, About Face. This is, I think, his second um, solo album, Gilmour's, that is. And I found myself listening to this as much as or more than Luck and
They've just
Strange.
re-released it, I think,
And
Mark. There was a thing on YouTube yesterday, the day before, with
oh
the
yeah,
through his
okay,
channel.
I didn't know about that. Well, personally, I'm much more excited by About Face than Luck and Strange. I mean, of course, it's like the autumnal production of a man who is an octogenarian or whatever, but So maybe we shouldn't expect it to have the energy of something he did when he was what,
And he's, yeah, I was going to
late
say,
30s or
in
early
his prime,
40s.
in his pomp, in his
Yeah,
mere youth.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I love About Face, even though it has like 80s production
Just look at the
qualities
cover.
that,
Right.
well, yeah, it certainly looks like a
It's
different
just got the red
person,
and white
right?
strat written all over it, metaphorically.
Yeah. Well, what do you think about Face and the comparison with Luck and
So I just
Strange?
kind of listened and dipped into it over the last couple of days because I kind of completely forgotten about it, if I'm being honest. And then I was looking through his YouTube channel and I noticed that they were re-releasing certain tracks from it. Then, as I said yesterday or a couple of days ago, they put out the whole album or they're reissuing it. I'm not quite sure, I wasn't paying that much attention to it. And I listened to a couple of tracks from it and yeah, well, I enjoyed it, but like most things, I'd need to go back and listen to it, start to finish kind of thing to give a more structured answer, I suppose. But yeah, at the time, when did it come out?
I want to say 84, which is around the time of the pros and cons of
Hitchhiking.
hitchhiking. Yeah, Waters, I think first solo album. Gilmour had done one previously, but I can remember when it came out.
Radio Chaos was the other
I would
one
have been
Roger
about
Waters did as well, if I
13.
remember.
Oh, yeah, that's and Amused to Death. Radio Chaos was kind of a dud for me, but I remember I remember when the pros and cons of hitchhiking came out. I remember the video. That's Eric Clapton playing the role of Gilmour on that LP. But I also remember when About Face came out. I didn't have the album, but I remember listening to Murder, which was probably the biggest single from that album. It's about the assassination of John Lennon. Really good. It's got Pino Palladino playing a fretless bass. It's got great guitar. And there are a lot of other good tracks. 2 songs by with lyrics by Pete Townsend, Love on the Air and All Lovers Are Deranged, which is fantastic. I mean, really high energy stuff. So that's worth a listen. And when I heard his comment, oh, Luck and Strange, the best thing since Dark Side of the Moon, no, I strongly disagree. I mean, forget about even all those Pink Floyd albums you were a part of that are better than this, Even the Division Bell, I would argue is better than Luck and Strange, but, even your solo stuff, like Luck and Strange is not the centerpiece for me. But maybe some people would disagree. Another album that occurred to me was Double Fantasy, John Lennon and Yoko Ono, for reasons that you can probably guess at. I mean, the collaborative aspect, because after all, this album is a family affair. And so in this slide, we've got a picture of Mother Hen with her devil horns and her brood. We've got Gypsy, that is Romany, and the 2 Gilmour boys, Charlie, who apparently lives with a magpie, or did, and Gabriel, or Gabe, who apparently appeared on Downton Abbey, which I don't watch.
It's either that or Peaky Blinders. I'm not quite sure what that setup is he's wearing, but
Yeah, with that cap, he looks like it could be on. It could be like playing the role of a gangster. But yeah. Anyway, we'll have a lot more to say about Gypsy, or Romany. She's a very important part of this album. But yeah, I'm not a fan of Ms. Polly Sampson, the wife of Mr. Gilmour, for reasons that I'll explain. And this is why, I was a the this whole project before I started listening. And the first time I listened, I just asked myself, what's the point of this? Was this necessary, this album? But after many more listens, I came to appreciate it much more. But I still do have my criticisms. I've talked a lot now. Anything you want to say?
It was just interesting when you talked about the Polly Sampson contribution, or contributions, I should say, and the kind of yokel factor, and or at least what I call the yokel factor, what the similarities and differences were, or what the outcomes were. That is it something we're just kind of, as Pink Floyd fans or fans of the music, is it something we should really be aware of and really make ourselves aware of, this kind of this aspect or this new dimension to the sound of Pink Floyd, or the sound of David Gilmour in this case?
Well, I mean, one important difference is that Yoko actually wrote music as well. Ms. Sampson just writes lyrics, she doesn't compose music so far as I know. Yoko actually did, and like Double Fantasy is actually a very good album, and it's like split, half John songs, half Yoko songs, or roughly split. It's a very good album. I mean, and I would say, I probably thought of it and mentioned it because, like About Face, I would say it's better than Luck and Strange. And so, you've got kind of a music and lyrics, or, sound and vision partnership, rather than, two singer-songwriters, collaborating equally.
Well, one of the question I wrote down just for this slide here: does anyone outside of the Gilmour clan or the Pink Floyd, let's just call them that, fan club, actually care about her artistically?
Care about what?
Polly Sampson artistically.
Oh, exactly. And I think the answer is no. I mean, she is a published novelist, I think. Maybe she writes poetry too, but to me, her writing is like that of a person who has an MFA in creative writing. It's like very academic and obvious and mainstream, and the kind of stuff that you can imagine soccer moms reading as they drink their pumpkin spice lattes at Starbucks. That's kind of a cliche too, but that's
It's a picture,
what
I think,
her stuff makes me think of. Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm being unfair to her. It's not to say she doesn't come up with an occasional good line, and I'll give her credit when credit is due, but I'm already like prejudiced against her, and I'll explain why now, and why I think she deserves these devil horns. So let's talk about the tweet, or tweets, I should say. This really, it's disgusting what she did, and I'm very disappointed in her husband for his participation in what seems to be a coordinated effort. Like, I mean, she tweets this out, and then he immediately retweets it and says every word demonstrably true. So what did she say? This is February 6th, 2023, so it's almost 2 years now, but she says, "Sadly, Roger Waters, you are anti-Semitic to your rotten core." So the laziest fucking smear that she can hurl at someone who thinks that Palestinians are human beings. It's like the worst kind of pro-Israeli Zionist Hasbara, right? Oh, you criticize Israel,
Therefore,
you think Palestinians are human beings, therefore you're anti-Semitic, you hate Jews. Get the fuck out of here with that. Disgusting.
Absolutely.
And then she says, also a Putin apologist. Bullshit. I mean, like, how can she not know this? Like, he's called Putin a gangster. He speaks to the UN. he condemns the invasion while at the same time pointing out that Zelensky's a fucking asshole too, and the U.S. is like stirring shit up and
pulling
like
some strings in there,
starting
you
a
know.
proxy war over there. Yeah, and so again, the laziest kind of smear. Okay, then she says, and a lying, thieving, hypocritical, tax avoiding, lip syncing, misogynistic, sick with envy, megalomaniac. And by the way, Ms. Polly Sampson, the writer, you don't need a comma after sick with envy. But okay, we won't criticize your punctuation. But I mean, like, what is all this? Is he's lying? He's thieving? What did he steal? He's hypocritical. Okay, maybe. I don't know all the behind the scenes shit. Tax avoiding? Did he not pay his taxes in the UK? If not, then I say good for him, you know. Lip syncing? Did he do that?
There was a
I
thing
mean,
about this that I can't remember whose video it was. I'll try and dig it out, see if I can remember. But there's a whole thing about a spate of artists who were doing it, like the Eagles were doing it, or they were caught doing it. Roger Waters might have done it on his last tour. I can't remember exactly the specifics of it, but there was something vaguely in there about using backing tracks or something.
well, maybe he did. That certainly doesn't bother me as much as these other accusations. Misogynistic? Oh, so he's afraid of women? Of course she means that he hates women. Oh no, that is misogynistic. I'm thinking of phobe, which is fear, but miso is hate. Yes, so he hates women. That's what you want to say. He hates women. Okay, well that's an easy accusation to make. How do you substantiate it? Like, he hates women. He hates them because he criticizes you. Sick with envy. That also seems pretty ludicrous to me. Some of these are like behind the scenes issues, which maybe they're valid, but anti-Semitic, Putin apologists, get the fuck out of here with that. And then for Gilmour to immediately retweet and say every word demonstrably true. Like, come on, man, you know better than that. That is fucking bullshit. I don't know how you feel about it, but as you can tell, I have a strong opinion
the
on this.
platform itself, as it's now known as X, just seems to be a kind of that's part of the reason why I'm not on it anymore. It's just the most kind of vitriolic, hateful. This was even before evil Musk took over it, right? So this was the beginning of 2023, before he got his paws all over it. But it just always seems to be the platform full of this kind of venomous.
Personal
attacks, exactly. And it's more okay. There's no smoke without fire, right? Just to kind of balance things up a bit. And as you mentioned there's things that we don't know about going on in the background about court cases or legal issues or tax issues, whatever it might have been, right? We don't know any of that, or at least it's not come out yet. So there could be some stuff in there, but she seems to have just kind of taken aim at him and just kind of thrown it all at him, him being Roger Waters at this case, and saying, right, okay, that's it. Enough of your nonsense. It's that last sentence there, enough of your nonsense. And you're just like, okay. I think nonsense is definitely a two-way street here,
Well, yeah, and she's expecting the crowd to like support
come
her,
out with the flags and start cheering her,
Yeah, cheer her and condemn him. And it's quite the reverse. I looked at her timeline and people are saying, oh yeah, this is the same kind of bullshit they used to take down Jeremy Corbyn, and oh, quit spouting your pro-Zionist Hasbara, and she said, "Oh, he compared Rachel Corrie to Anne Frank. The IDF killed her accidentally. This is the girl that got run over by a bulldozer, and so people were calling her out. I was glad to see people were calling her out for that. Like, oh, accidentally, huh?" And then everyone who criticizes Israel, the government, is therefore a Jew hater. Fuck off with all that. That is despicable. No excuse for that. Gilmour knows or should know better. So again, very disappointed when I saw this, and so I was kind of like going into the listening project, that I had to or that we're engaged in, and that I had to do research for in order to review the record. Like I had like a bias against these people, this family, as it were.
Well, there's a Ukrainian link.
As I said,
I don't know, one of their sons or someone's married to a Ukrainian woman. I think that might be the kind of connection.
Yes.
To Ukraine, personally.
And he's got the blue and yellow flag in his picture, his profile pic there, and they even did a Pink Floyd single. You heard about that? Hey, hey, rise up. I didn't even listen to it, but I mean, so you're encouraging those people to basically commit suicide, right? Like we're gonna fight the Russians to the last Ukrainian. That's like the admitted policy of the U.S. and UK. So you're not really very pro-Ukrainian either. You're just condemning them to the meat grinder. It's
not very well. It's not very well
disappointing.
thought out. If I'm being,
I'm trying
to be balanced about it. She does seem to have a bit of a problem with Roger Waters specifically. Now, whether this is just, if you look at the list of things here, thieving, hypocritical, okay, you could take that as a, just a personality trait.
That's subjective. Right? Yeah, right.
As is the lip syncing part. You're like, yeah, okay, sick with envy. I mean, is that, what does that mean? Who is he sick with envy about?
Well, I do remember he
I mean, the Gilmour.
Yeah, like that's silly. I mean, he's not above criticism. I remember when he came out with a video complaining that the Pink Floyd websites didn't promote his solo stuff, like they promote Gilmour's stuff and Sid's stuff, but it's like, hey, you remember you left the group, so if they don't want to promote your shit, that's kind of on you. I mean, that is...
You wanted the band dissolved, if I remember.
Too.
Correct.
Exactly, and didn't want them to use the name, so kind of like you got to expect that to be the case, and maybe he would recognize that now, but he's just saying, like, the Pink Floyd fans should be made aware of his solo stuff. But again, he left the group, so that's... Maybe she's referring to something like that, but again... The inexcusable shit is the anti-Semitic slur and then Putin apologist. Fuck off with that. So stupid. And then it's obviously coordinated because he immediately retweets every word demonstrably true. I mean, very disappointing. Very ugly. So this is interesting. My man Max Blumenthal from the Gray Zone, great journalist, one of the few journalists left, soon after this post, I guess a couple days after, back in 2023, said, in 2010, Polly Sampson told The Guardian, I just look at Julian Assange and what he's doing, and I'd love to be doing something like that, so she says. And then Max says, today, that is, back in February of 2023, she is spouting neocon bile against one of Assange's top defenders because her washed-up husband was too cowardly to do it himself. Ooh.
Gloves are off.
Brutal. Yeah. Washed-up husband, that's pretty pretty harsh. I mean, people have called Roger washed up too, so that can go both
There must
ways.
be a
Like
certain
any
point, an age
old
you
timer,
get to, right? And that's it, yes, we're nearly there ourselves, Mark.
which by the way, I don't agree
No.
with. Like people say Woody Allen should stop
In a way,
making
it's just
movies. I say
in a way,
why?
it's just an easy kind of throwaway line, right? You can just add it to something, you're just
Yeah,
over the hill and done.
ageism. I mean, he's like, Luck and Strange and even Dark Side of the Moon Redux. Those are better albums than, you know, most of what is released today by artists other than Mark Will. But
We'll save that for another
yeah,
episode,
this is funny. Yeah,
or maybe two.
this is funny. Yeah. Well, this is funny. I saw, when you look something up on Google, you look up an album, it'll say like whatever percent of listeners liked this album. The public reception, or let's say like the people's opinion of these two albums, these two companion albums that we've been talking about in the last two episodes, Dark Side Redux and Luck and Strange. Like, it's very clear what the popular choice is. I don't know if you saw those numbers, but it's like 97% like Luck and Strange. You know what the number is for Dark Side Redux?
Considerably lower.
50%. 50%.
I didn't actually read that many reviews as I did for the last. Maybe that was just a deliberate thing. I subconsciously didn't think about it at the time, but I never read many or as many personal reviews of this album as I did with the Redux. Maybe that was just to give it a different slant as well, not to go back to the well twice.
Yeah, well, we talked about how in the YouTube comments it seemed to be split, 50-50 between the haters and the fanboys and fangirls. So apparently that's really the case. Like according to the reviews on Google, only 50% like Dark Side Redux. But there's like universal acclaim for Luck and Strange for good reason in a way. I'm just pointing out in advance before we get into the track by track analysis. I'm just pointing out in advance my prejudice against it. I had to overcome some of my prejudice to appreciate the musical qualities. But then there's one other thing. Besides those tweets, there was the interview, which I think you first called my attention to because you posted
Facebook
this
page,
on Facebook, right? So that was late 2024, October 3rd. There was an interview in The Guardian, and like readers could ask him questions, or maybe they're like online subscribers asking questions. So Girl You Know It's True asked him, do you think you will ever perform on stage with Roger again? And again, another pretty shitty answer from
or just standard,
Dave.
maybe, as now is the case. If he's going to be asked these questions, you're gonna get the same reply.
That's the standard line now. Absolutely not, he says. I tend to steer clear of people who actively support genocidal and autocratic dictators like Putin and Maduro. Oh my goodness. Are you kidding me? So because he is opposed to US and UK meddling in these other countries and starting proxy wars, he supports genocidal and autocratic dictators. Fuck off. And notice he doesn't mention a genocidal and autocratic, in his list of genocidal and autocratic dictators, he doesn't mention Satan Yahoo. No mention of him, because of course Roger is highly critical of him. But how does Ms. Polly Sampson feel about Netanyahu? How does she feel about what's going on in Gaza? And you, if you have your own opinion about such things, Mr. Dave, what do you think?
Mm.
So yeah, he says, and he
No,
goes
but
on. He
I was
doesn't
going to
stop
say
there.
there's more.
Nothing would make me share a stage with someone who thinks such treatment of women and the LGBT community, he forgot the
Or
Q,
the plus.
is okay. Yeah, or the plus. So you think Roger is like condoning mistreatment of women? Oh, there's the misogynistic comment again. He's condoning the mistreatment of women and the LGBTQ plus community. The guy who said in Any Color You Like we should have a rainbow flag, and he's talking about how everyone should be accepted regardless of their sexuality. So like he's in favor of that. Come on, man, you got to know better than that. I just can't believe, like, why are you doing that? Why are you saying that shit? You hate him that much personally that you're just gonna make that up?
Sounds that way, man, without knowing any different, but that's what it certainly sounds like. There's no love lost.
Gross. And then he takes another poke at him. On the other hand, I'd love to be back on stage with Rick Wright, who was one of the gentlest and most musically gifted people I've ever known, and quiet and less, forceful a personality. Maybe that's why he's praising the shit out of him now. Not that he's not a fantastic musician. Of course he was, and
a definitive part of the
Rick
Pink
Wright
Floyd
too,
sound, right? Without him,
yeah, for sure. But it's also kind of like an attack on Roger Waters' musicianship. Like, he's not one of the musically gifted people. By the way, I didn't mention in the last episode that I want to say it was on track 8. Maybe it was Any Color You Like. Roger was playing bass, and it's some pretty funky ass bass that he was playing. Like, I don't think he played on every track, but that one track he played on, whatever it was, 8 or 9, sounded great, Like he had a great groove. So I've never accepted that notion that Waters is musically, untalented or not musically astute or not a good bassist, not a good, songwriter, musician.
he's like the hanger on.
Lyricist. No. That is absurd. And he knows better. That's the sad thing. Like, Gilmour knows better. All right, so after I've trashed the shit out of him and his family, let's try to listen to the album track by track objectively, which I think I did. I mean, as I say, I give credit where credit is due, in my opinion. So it kicks off with an instrumental. Do you recognize this title? You know what that's from?
Thin Lizzy, yeah.
Uncut Dub. Oh, I don't know about that. It's a U2 song.
Oh, is it a U2 song or Thin Lizzy?
Well?
Yeah, you're probably right. But I was going to say there's an Irish, obviously, with the...
Yeah,
Thin Lizzy
it's
song?
an Irish plate.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll have to look that up, but I know for sure it's on...
it's on one of the early U2 albums.
Their first album?
October, Boy.
Boy. I want to say Boy, yeah. Which is maybe their best album, actually, but it means the Black Cat, of course, and that's because this instrumental track features his Black Cat Fender Strat. It's black and white in all the videos. I saw that it's actually got a red outline. Like, if I've seen him play it live in certain videos, and this cat it looks like it's white around the edges, but it's actually red. So it's the Black Cat Strat that's featured. Musically, I guess it kind of establishes a mood, but totally forgettable to me. Like, I don't replay it. I don't really remember much about it other than that it's short.
For me...
Did it do anything for you?
The one sentence note that I wrote down, now this might be a common theme here of my one sentence notes, but I'm going for the less is more approach, I suppose, Mark. But it was a sign that the Floyd sound is back. That's for what this track did for me. Everything else, I agree with you. There's nothing really stand outish about it. There's no great big build up or any kind of swirly orchestral. There's nothing really. It's just a bit ethereal and a bit this and a bit that. And okay, let's. But I took it as a sign or a signal for the Floyd fans that you're going to get some Floyd stuff in this album. That's what I took it as anyway.
Well, that's
because there's not every track is sounding. Not like every track on this album is like a Pink Floyd song, I would say, but
right.
there's definitely more than one or two that are Floyd songs.
I hadn't thought about that, but now that you mention it, I tend to agree with you. Nothing, overwhelming, overpowering. It's not like there's a "Wish You Were Here" type riff,
or you
anything.
get the "Shine on You,"
right?
Exactly,
on you,
right?
Crazy
Exactly.
Diamond. Yeah, right.
No.
Nothing like that. So memorable, but yes, there is kind of the nod towards the Pink Floyd sound and something for the Pink Floyd fans. So it's a little teaser. Well, then we get to the title track number 2, Luck and Strange. And for those of you not watching, we've got a pic of Rick Wright in his younger days. We've got a pic in the middle of, I want to say this is Emma Stone giving the thumbs up and saying, "Okay, boomer." And then we've got a pic of a guitar that we'll talk about in a minute. And the little tagline I put underneath the title is "6-string master of a contracting universe." That's a kind of parody of Ms. Sampson's lyrics, which, that's the reason for my "Okay, boomer" pick here.
Did you watch some of those? I was going to say, did you watch some of those short explainer videos, I think they're called, on his YouTube channel, where they go into a bit more detail? 2 minutes. Yeah, it's usually they kind of are a few minutes anyway off.
Yes, I'll put that in the show notes. There's like a 20-minute.
There's a big one. There's a big one when it's.
Yeah, and then then there's some song by song analyses or explanations. But yeah, I mean, like thematically, first of all, I don't like this. I find this title off-putting. Like, you got a noun and an adjective. It could work, but the phrasing I find awkward and pretentious. It's off, yeah. But I'm alluding to that line, 6-string masters of an expanding universe. And so my thought was, well, he's still a 6-string master. I'll give him that. But the universe seems to be contracting, like in more ways than one. Not only musically, but like there's kind of a dark, I mentioned before, an autumnal tone. Like he's starting to wrestle with issues of mortality and death and so on as he gets older, which is fair enough. But like that mood of contraction seems to prevail on this record. Even like with the cover, the black and white, all the videos are black and white, very like a somber mood is created.
They were done by the famous artist Anton Corbijn.
Oh, okay, I know him.
He's done Depeche Mode or Simple Minds back in the days. He's done everyone, I think. And he did that great movie about Joy Division, the name of which escapes me. It's not called Close Up. What's it called? Control.
Control. Isn't it? Yeah. Is that what it was? Control. Yeah. I better check that. Anton Corbijn, Control. Yes, it is. 2007 Control. Yeah. Which I guess is an allusion to She's Lost Control. Oh, I love Joy Division. We got to do a Joy Division episode. Are
I
you a Joy
am, and
Division fan?
Transmission's one of my first Joy Division memories, just hearing it and being, well, we'll save that for the episode then. Let's.
Okay, okay. I think I told you before, I've also got the Peter Hook biography, which is
I've read
pretty
it,
good.
yeah. I read it on
Oh,
holiday
yeah.
this year. Amongst
Okay.
the Wichita Lineman biography as well, the biography of the song Wichita Lineman. That
Oh,
was my
wow.
holiday reading.
Hmm.
A bit eclectic, but
I'll see if I can get a copy of that. Yeah. Ooh, that sounds interesting. I know a little bit about that story. I should probably get that book. But
we
back to
digress.
the Luck and
Right, sorry.
Strange, like, yeah, yeah. Well, that's what we do. It's wittertainment. Um, uh, why did I say this? Okay, boomer. In the explanation, he said, "Oh, it's about our '60s generation and how we were so full of hope and promise, and we we just hope that it's not a what do the lyrics say? A one-off golden age,
Hmm.
But it seems kind of self-congratulatory in the way Polly Sampson has phrased it. I'm not saying that's necessarily Gilmour's viewpoint, but as you say, her lyrics are off. It's just like, I'm not really feeling it. I don't like this nostalgia you're selling is just not really very compelling.
I think it's
Uh,
a different kind of luck and
yeah,
strange to maybe my parents' experience growing up at the same time as David Gilmour, and I don't know what age Polly Sampson is, but yeah, maybe that's a north-south thing. I don't know. Maybe it's a class thing.
well, probably, yeah, probably is class. I mean, my relationship with the boomers has changed over the years, but I mean, my parents are
Mm.
boomers, but also some of the most important influences influences in my life are boomers. The Beatles are boomers, right? Like, so I love boomers. The Pink Floyd guys are boomers. So, but then as they and the Stones and on and on, but then it's mostly musical boomers that
True.
were influential to me. But as they got older, sometimes they seemed to embrace some pretty horrific policies. It's like they had all the good times and climbed up the ladder of success, and then they wanted to kick it away
Mm.
from the next generations. They left us with all the shit, and then the poor millennials get even fewer scraps than
On
we
the other
got.
hand, they were not told that you should eat less avocado toast or buy less avocado toast than pumpkin spice lattes, and then you'll do better.
Well, they're the ones lecturing
Mm.
us about that, right? While they had all their fun times, and now we're the ones that are supposed to buckle
There's a
down.
line in the song about
I'm not saying,
free milk,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
like
after
after
the
the
war, right?
war,
Because
right? Deep.
rationing in the UK didn't end until the mid 50s, maybe even a bit later. Obviously, a bit before my
So
time.
maybe even that was like
Mm.
idealized. Like it's not even an accurate
Of course,
portrayal.
Thatcher
But
took the milk
yeah,
away,
there's
or
something
she
about
tried. So, but that's a she was the milk snatcher.
yeah. Well, she would be. Um, yeah, there's a line about demob, happy street. So okay, people got
Mm.
demobilized, and then free milk for us all. Like, I mean, one of the things about, especially in the UK, those boomers, right? Like, they inherited a desolate world, much more. I mean, it was the UK was much more devastated than the US, which wasn't devastated
Yeah.
at all, right? So, like, it was a much more gloomy post-war experience for those boomers that eventually became rock stars. I mean, the Who also. You could think about their backgrounds and so on. But what was I gonna say about that? Like that was kind of like the difference between the UK and the US rock stars of that period. Like the UK guys were more ambitious because it was more important for them to succeed and crawl out of their poverty and misery. They wanted to become rich and famous. The US guys were, I mean, they did too, you could say, but they were maybe less
driven in a certain way.
They were less deprived and less driven. Yeah, maybe. I mean,
Sunshine does a wonder to people
before.
as well, Mark. I mean, you have to take that into consideration. We have a certain lack of that thing, you know. So not to
That's
take
true.
away from what
Yeah.
you're saying. What's with the guitar then in the slide here?
So this is a picture of the Gretsch. I don't know if it's actually his, but it's the same model. It's the Gretsch. It's a 1950s Gretsch guitar that I'm pretty sure he's using on this track because I watched the video several times to make sure it wasn't the Les
Right.
Paul. And based on the knobs and the fretboard, his Les Paul has a tremolo bar too. But I mean, this is just a beautiful guitar, man. I would love to have this Gretsch. I mean, isn't it gorgeous? Like, as a guitar fan, this is one of the things that I like about the album, just like looking at his gear and listening to the different sounds. And this, yeah, the Gretsch sounds great. It's what he's playing on the
Because
solo.
for a certain fan base, they're maybe not so familiar with his other guitars, as it were, you know, like the first slide we looked at, the Black Cat, and you've got this. That's what
Yes.
for many fans he's synonymous with, that guitar, and that whether he's playing comfortably numb on it or, you know, whatever else he plays on it. But that's what he was
Well,
known
you
for.
just mean a
A
Strat.
Strat, yeah.
He's known for a Strat, right? Not like I think the Black Cat sticker is new. That's what I heard anyway.
No,
I've
I
never
did. I
seen that
wasn't.
before.
I don't really pay much attention to
and I
these
don't
things.
know
You're just like, oh.
Well, as a guitarist, you know, I do like, I am interested in this aspect of it. So it is a guitar fan's album. You know, he is a guitar hero. He is a six-string master.
It's an interesting thing because Slash
can't
did
deny
a
that.
blues album last year. Now we can say last year because officially we're into 2025 now. But was it called Orgy of the
Yep.
Damned? The Slash album he did last year.
I
So
don't
of course,
know.
when you think of guitar players, you think of Slash and a Les Paul, right? But in this,
Yes.
what he did was he got the kind of all-star or some of his favourite vocalists to sing. So Brian Johnson does the Killing Floor with him, as I forget which one from ZZ Top, because Dusty is no longer with us.
LaGrange,
Who's the other one in ZZ Top? Obviously not Frank Beard.
Billy
Gibbons
Gibbons.
plays on and sings on a track, and there's a whole bunch of other artists on it and stuff.
I think I heard one of
But
these
he
songs.
did, and he plays different guitars in some of the videos, you know, so he's playing like a kind of 335 looking guitar, and he's playing an Explorer as well, I think, at one point, or a Flying V. So he's playing, you know, he's exploring and using all these different. So of course he gets a nice top of the range Gibson complimentary and that kind of stuff. But it's interesting seeing guitarists playing other things out with their signature models, as it were.
Yeah.
From a guitar nerd point of view, right? If you, other people might
exactly.
just say, well, it kind of sounds like Slash, you know, but to the inner nerds, I think we know
Right, and maybe, you know, maybe the casual fan would say, well, he just sounds like Gilmour, he sounds like Pink Floyd, but yeah, there are some subtle differences, and I mean, it's just nice to see him using all these different, all the different tools in his toolbox, all
adds to the
different
layers
guitars
and
in
the
his
textures
arsenal.
and the kind of overall sonic
Absolutely.
power of
Absolutely.
the music itself.
Yeah. Yeah. And the picture of Rick Wright here is included because the I guess there are three parts to the song, but like the main uh intro and verse and so on, they that part evolved out of a jam that he did with Rick Wright and some other people, and we'll talk about that more at the end. But like Rick Wright is actually on this album because he's playing keyboards in these during these verses, right, and during the intro. That's actually him on the record, so that's
Mm.
pretty interesting the way they cobbled that together. Then I guess he just added these other parts like the chorus, and then there's kind of a bridge part that is also pretty interesting musically,
Musically, yeah.
right? Lyrically,
Mm.
less so.
Great.
Yeah. So yeah, it's nice to see this Gretsch. I know I'm jealous. I would love to
And of
have
course, it's
that.
a single cut Gretsch. When we think of Gretches, you might think of the more uh, bigger models, the the
Yeah, the
hollow
hollow
bodies.
bodies. Yeah. Well, this is. I think I've seen Jimmy Page play one like this, so it's a very nice
And apparently, he
guitar.
sold a lot of his
If I
guitars as
could
well.
afford
David
it.
Gilmour, he sold. I don't know if he gave the money to charity or whatever he did, but a few years ago he
I
had
think
he had
I
a bit of
saw
a
that.
clear out.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's how you would describe it, as opposed to you and I maybe tidying
Yeah.
out your kind of cables and stuff like that. But he was dispensing with rather more expensive and valuable possessions. You can only play one guitar at a time. Let's be honest.
Yeah. I just said. I just sent a message to the chat. Is there anybody out there to quote a Pink Floyd song? Okay, let's see. Track 3, The Piper's Call, ing you to join him. Um, what can we say about this? Musically, this is one of the more interesting tracks for me. It's the first appearance of the drummer Steve
Mm.
Gadd. How do you feel about him? He's a competent pro. He played with Steely Dan, Paul Simon, a lot of people. Apparently, he's Gilmour's favorite drummer. I don't know if I'd go that far, but as a drummer, how do you feel about him?
Uh, I saw him play with Eric Clapton in Seoul. I don't know how many years ago it was, but managed to score a free ticket, and that's how we went to see Eric Clapton. And Steve Gadd was part of the band, and Eric Clapton sat down for half of the. Anyway, it was a kind of forgettable concert. Other than that, I mean, it was all right, but that was when I saw Steve Gadd, and he was, there was. He didn't do anything particularly. There was no solos. There was no. It was just play the songs, and then that was more or less it.
Mm-hmm.
But for those who don't know much about Steve Gadd, I would go and check out 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover and listen to the
Okay.
drums on that. And from a aesthetic point of view, just
Put that in the
go and
show
listen
notes.
to the drum line on that. That's one of his kind of most famous drum parts. As a drummer, he's I mean, he can play things that I can't, right? So, uh, as a drummer, he's a very soft drummer. Whatever the opposite of a heavy hitter is, that's Steve Gadd. So but there's one of the interviews, or in the interviews, he talks about Steve Gadd's playing, and he says he hits it really gently or delicately, but loud at the same time. I think it's the young producer
Hmm.
guy who's talking about it, and
Right.
I don't think that's true at all. So I think he's a very subtle. Not that he can't play hard, but he just doesn't. He's a more kind of delicate. And
Yeah.
you see some of the video, he's hitting the drums so delicately and so softly and very meticulously. I mean, it sounds great. The drums on the
He's
drums
not-
on the album sound great. I can't complain with the actual sound of them. It's a very Floyd, Nick Mason type performance. I would say, a very understudied, play to the song, and get into that kind of groove mentality. There's nothing here that you wouldn't expect from a Pink Floyd, David Gilmour album. There's nothing flashy in the drums. It's just very what the song needs.
He's not John Bonham.
But then again,
who is? Well, okay, so of course this title, what does it remind me of? Sid, of course. It reminds me of
Pipers at the Gates
Piper
of
at the
Dawn.
Gates
Yeah.
of Dawn. Yeah, the first Pink Floyd album, and I thought, oh, is this about Sid? Like, is he the Piper? But apparently not. This is supposed to be about the spoils of fame, a carpe diem attitude. That's one of the lines, which is also kind of a dud and falls flat for me. But it's kind of like the good and evil, or the Faustian bargain that is in one of the Dark Side Redux songs, right? Didn't we talk about that last time? One of the tracks is about the crossroads. Yeah, love or money, right? So, and I guess that's the same theme here. But
I think there's a theme of mortality.
Really
I think there's more of a theme of mortality here, or the kind of impending nature of your days, months, years are not that many left, as it were. There's that kind of aspect to it. But the lyrically, well, I don't know. It's kind of
it's kind of
the chorus is all right.
It's incoherent. Which one is the chorus? What does it say in the chorus?
The carpe diem.
I can hear it musically, but I can't remember the spoils of fame. Yeah.
So he brings it up.
Yeah. How did you feel about his vocal performance? There were times, maybe more on Luck and Strange.
I thought it was.
I felt like he was.
Oh, go on. Excuse me. Sorry.
He's straining.
That's
right?
the word I wrote
It's
down,
almost
man.
out of
That's
his
the word.
range,
I didn't even
isn't
write
it?
a sentence down. I just wrote voice is strained. There we go. That's what I kind of thought.
Yeah.
I felt they were kind of pushing him a bit too hard, Or he was himself. I mean, obviously he wasn't bullied into doing it, but it seemed a bit. Yeah, could we squeeze any more out of this? I mean, it was. Oh, I don't think he'd be doing that live. Let's put it that way.
Maybe he'll lip sync it, huh? And then will Polly Sampson tweet about it?
Well,
musically it's interesting because it's got ukulele, obviously, and in the video, I don't hear it too much in the mix. I didn't pay attention, but in the video you can see a lap slide guitar. That's nice. Reminds us of Wish You Were Here or something.
I think the playing on this album here, just as we talk about sound or the kind of sonic value of it here, I think the actual playing on the album is really, really first class, from everyone. Just as you mentioned earlier about Steve Gadd. I think the performances, the playing, the production, or at least for the bigger numbers, the production's quite tasteful, I thought. But the playing, I don't think David Gilmour sounded... I was surprised, actually. It sounded as big and as boomy as it did in certain parts,
Yes. Again, he's still the six-string master, or a six-string master, no doubt about it. On this track, I like the outro. He's using the Les Paul with a tremolo. I don't know if supposedly this is a picture of his or one like his. It's in the video, of course, it looks like it's black, but I think it's actually this
gold top
kind of gold top, or it's not like the typical sunburst Les Paul, but gold top with the tremolo bar. really heavy. Sounds good, I like what he
Yeah, the
does
solo outs, the
on the
solo out,
outro
yeah,
here.
I wrote it out. My notes again are just the solo out is first class. It sounds it
Yeah,
sounds a
pretty
bit kind
nice.
of, the song
Yeah.
itself is a bit not really plodding, but it's kind of it needs something to it, and then it comes, Then
Mm,
we have to wait for it, but then
yeah.
yeah, I think it's worth waiting for at the end. It's a bit guts. It's a bit
Yeah,
gutsy,
as
the
I
guitar in
say.
this track actually, or the solo at least. Anyway, it's a bit gutsy, a bit
Hmm.
ballsier. I felt
Yeah,
it's got
it's
a
heavy.
bit of grunt to it.
Yes, absolutely. Which is,
Because we're
something we
used to that more
like.
kind of delicate, pardon the pun, but that kind of lighter guitar sound that he's kind of famed for, with that kind of certain aesthetic to it. But this is definitely a bit of grunt, a bit of balls, and you're like, oh, okay, here we go.
Hmm.
That's maybe the icing on the cake for me.
Yeah, as I say, musically, this is one of the highlights for me. So that leads us to track 4, A Single Spark. And musically, maybe you feel differently. There's really nothing I have to say about it. But what's interesting to me is that in one of these videos, he said, "Oh, this is taken directly from the first page, the line, a single spark between two eternities," meaning basically life
Hmm.
itself, right? You've got non-existence and non-existence before you're born and after you die, and then there's life in between. But he says, "Oh, it's lifted from page 1 of Nabokov's Speak Memory." Well, I just happened to have that on my shelf. And so I pulled it down and looked at page 1, and here's what it says. Not quite exactly what he said, but it says, "Common sense tells us that our existence is but a brief crack of light between two eternities of darkness." So I like the way Nabokov
Hmm.
phrased it better than the way Ms. Sampson appropriated it. Common sense tells us that our existence is but a brief crack of light between two eternities of darkness.
If
Pretty
only the song
nice.
was as interesting
But
as that quote, I think, Mark.
that's what I was about to say. I'm glad you agree. I can't even
It had
remember it.
some nice
Like,
jazzy
I listened
overtones.
to it
That
several
was my
times.
note contribution. A bit dull. It was a bit kind of, yeah, all right, um, great. you know,
Weren't there some
yeah.
strings
Mm.
on this and
The
keys
guitar
and
has some
but
nice kind of jazzier overtones to, I think, to contrast the
mm,
previous track, "The Piper's Calling." It's a kind of
yeah.
a more mellow companion to that kind of thing. It's yeah, it was all a bit forgettable.
And oh look, Tomac just joined the chat. He says Russian literature stand up. Oh, okay, yeah. He's referring to the Nabokov quote, but that's Russian American literature, right? He probably wrote the original in Russian and then translated it into English as he did with a lot of his works. It's interesting to think about Nabokov in relation to pop music, right? Like, what am I thinking of now? Of course, young teacher, the subject of schoolgirl fantasy, blah,
Mm.
blah, blah. Just like that old man in that book by Nabokov,
A
as
Sting might
Sting
say. Yeah.
pronounces it. Yeah. Oh, got to put that in the show notes too. Shout out to Nabokov and Don't Stand So Close to Me. But yeah, musically nothing special here. That's why I didn't even bother to look up what kind of
It's a
gear
nice
he was
title for a
using.
song,
I don't know what
actually.
guitar he used.
I like the name of the song. That's about it. Jazzy overtones. Next.
And I guess that's a better title than A Single Crack would be. So maybe yeah, I'm gonna rethink my criticism of her. I mean, she did all right with that. I kind of like that lyrically. He says, "Ha ha, Sting, stand up." uh, so yeah, I kind of like that appropriation, that allusion to Nabokov. So give Ms. Sampson a point for that. But musically,
Take it or leave it, eh?
there's not a balance there.
It's a bit like a fart in the wind.
It's a fart
If I can counterbalance your Nabokov quote, then I'll give you one of maybe a more Homerism then, of the Simpson kind.
Well, there you go. It's a fart between two eternities. All right, so moving on to track 5, which is called Vita Brevis. I use the classical pronunciation. I wonder how Gilmour pronounces it with his Cambridge accent. Maybe he says Vita Brevis. But of course, I'm thinking of the phrase Vita Brevis, ars longa. Life is short, art is long. And so, I mean, he's not kidding when he titles this brief, because it's not even a minute. If I remember correctly. So where's the art? It's not long enough to be art. I'm not saying you can't have short pieces which are artistic, but this, again, totally forgettable. The only thing notable about it is Ms. Romany, yeah, Gypsy. She appears on this with her harp, and we'll talk more about her very soon. She is like a shining bright light on this album for me. Not so much on this track, but we'll see. So, one of the criticisms of Waters, the Dark Side Redux, was that it was self-indulgent crap. That's what someone in the YouTube comments said about whatever track. I mean, you could maybe say that about this too, but I see what he's doing. He's just like side 1, if you think of it as an LP. Yeah, so side 1 begins with a short instrumental, and then here's side 2. But I mean, what does it do for us? Like, what? It's not thematic. It doesn't relate to anything else. It's just
here's
kind
some
of
harp.
Another.
Here's some harp. Let's have more harp, right? Because that's
yeah.
I can't think of anything else that I'd thought. It's all a bit pretentious and a bit nothing of any great significance.
Dare we say self-indulgent? Yeah. Tomek says all we are farts in the wind. So maybe that's true
Steep,
to life. Man. Yeah. So I think we can pass over this. But then this for me is the highlight. I don't know if you feel the same, but Between 2 Points, it's interesting too, because this is the cover. This is the one song that Ms. Sampson did not contribute to at all.
The irony,
lyrics, right? Yeah. So now, according to the story, this was a favorite song of Mr. and Ms. Gilmour for many years. The original by the Montgolfier brothers, named after these famous French balloonists, hot air balloon enthusiasts. So, interesting name. I had never heard of it. I listened to the original, really nice song, and did you hear the original?
It's quite different to the cover. I prefer the cover. The cover in the sense that it's just brought a bit more life to it. But in fact, it's brought a whole lot of life to it. I mean, the cover, the original's a very delicate song, very fragile, really. The vocals are really soft. Everything is just, it feels like it could break at any kind of moment, right? It's just this kind of thing of fragility, and it's just really a very unique sounding track. And for whatever reason, I'd never heard of the Montgolfier brothers the French ones or the English ones until this
Nor had
song
I.
came out, and I'd heard it was a cover, and then I was like, oh, let's go and investigate this. But they were an act that I wasn't familiar with, but it's a really, really nice, well-written song, and I think the cover does it proud.
Yes, I agree with all of that, and it's great that he did that and brought attention to them and hopefully some
Yeah, absolutely.
royalties to them. Um, that's great. One of the guys died,
Yeah, the
apparently, the
drummer not long
drummer,
ago, a couple of years ago, maybe.
yeah, who wrote the
Mm.
lyrics, which, as you say, are fragile. So I guess that fragile arrangement is appropriate, but beautiful
Isn't it?
song
Isn't it ironic?
lyrically.
Is it
Man,
ironic that both of us, the song we probably like best at the album is this one from a music. I don't know musically, but lyrically, 100%. Yeah, the song actually has something to say.
for me, lyrically or musically
Mm.
as well, like it's just I think Romany has a beautiful voice. I mean, wow, like in the tradition of great Pink Floyd female singers,
It's right up
she's
there. I mean, it's
now part of the
the live
yeah,
performances. I
she's
don't
up
know if you
there.
checked out the tour rehearsal. I think it was called. Then there was a Jules
Yes,
Holland
yeah.
one. And what was the other one I watched? I watched another live one, but man, she can sing.
Yeah, I saw the Jules Holland. That
The
was
Jules Holland one's very fancy. I mean, they've got
uh
she's on the little harp. I don't know what the technical names for harps are. Or even if is it plural
right.
harps? I don't even know, right? But she's got the little one, and then behind her there's the big one, and you're just like, because we
Yeah,
can,
yeah.
So, but really, really
Uh
wonderfully played, very subtly played.
and apparently she did it in like one or two takes. She was rushing to catch her train and they're like, "No, come sing on this." She's like, I don't even know this song." And they just gave her
Here's
the lyrics. Here,
something.
just sing it.
Okay, Dad.
Very
Yeah,
impressive. I mean, she is like one of the shining bright stars of this whole record, in my opinion. Uh, nice harp, beautiful vocal performance. The guitar solo at the end is nice, and
I think it's what you expect of a
again, the
Gilmour
lyrics.
solo, without sounding too
Hmm.
cliched. It's what
Yeah,
a lot of Floyd fans would expect a David Gilmour solo
hmm,
to sound like is on this track here.
yeah, true. I didn't check and see what guitar he was playing. Maybe
I
the
think he's
Black
playing a
Cat. I
Strat.
don't
Yeah.
know, but okay. So yeah, very. I mean, great production, great vocal performance, beautiful composition. Love the lyrics. Almost like the self pity and melancholy. It's almost like Morrissey
Mm,
type lyrics, but more
mm,
abstract. Morrissey is more like with concrete examples, more
right.
colloquial. This is like more, I don't know how to describe it, more
Mm.
abstract, I guess, but beautiful. The Montgolfier brothers are considered a dream pop group, and I thought that was interesting because can you explain the two picks
So
that I
the
picked?
top one is Kate Bush, and the
Mm,
second one is now. This is a. I was thinking about this. The Dream Academy.
absolutely. Both of which
I'm such a nerd,
have,
man. I'm like, okay, but Life in a Northern Town
well,
was the Dream
so am I.
Academy.
Exactly. And you know who
Mm.
produced that, right?
Well, so we'll fill in the
Yeah.
blanks for those who don't. It was David Gilmour.
Yeah. And so he has been involved, and I like this, I like the fact that he's, despite being David Gilmour of Pink Floyd, he's like helped out these dream pop acts. Okay, he covers a Montgolfier Brothers song. He produced the Dream Academy. I remember when
Mm.
Life in a Northern Town came out. That song. It's not. it was never one of my favorites, but I do remember when it was in rotation on
No,
MTV, and
it
it
was really
sounded a little
different.
bit
Yeah,
different.
exactly. Right, exactly. It was really
Yeah.
different.
So so that's good. Kate Bush, I don't know if she's dream pop, but she's
Dreamy,
avant-garde, and dreamy. She had an album
the
called The
dream, yeah,
Dreaming,
or
so
the
I
dream.
guess that's yeah. So I guess that's pretty dream poppy. It looks like Google Slides changed the formatting of my text here. Kind of annoyed with that, but let's not be too OCD about it. So
But
yeah, this
back to the
for me
song. This
this is
is
the
yeah,
highlight.
absolutely. This is the first single from the album, if my memory serves me rightly. And I think if you're going to
Mm,
come out and say that this is the best thing you've done since That Side of the Moon, and then this is what people are hearing for the first time, then there might be some truth in that to some listeners.
yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, I probably played this. It was on repeat. I probably listened to this.
A lot.
I don't know if I listened to it 50 times, maybe not 50, but close to that. I mean,
The whole
it
album
is
actually works well in a kind of dog walking
very
context, if I can put it there.
inspiring.
I've listened to it uh, last while, whilst out walking the dog, and maybe over half an hour each walk. But yeah, it's a nice companion piece
Mm,
actually. The kind of ones we skipped, you can just fast forward them.
yeah.
Let the dog do his thing.
All
But yeah,
right.
this is definitely standout track, and here's to the Montgolfier brothers, and hopefully they make a few quid from some royalties and so on. But yeah, so it's a great version.
Yeah. All right. Then that leads us to track 7, Dark and Velvet Nights. The tagline I've included here is said goodbye to your place or mine. I may be having issues with my internet here. I lost
You were
transmission
a
for a
bit fuzzy
second.
for a wee while there, but I think I could hear you and see you, no problem.
I wonder if that's on my end. Okay, so said goodbye to your place or mine. I thought that was pretty clever. Otherwise, I don't know what she's on about. Is she trying to allude to the Nancy Sinatra and Lee Hazelwood song Some Velvet Morning, which is like, 1,000 times better than this song in every way?
It's a weird mix.
Um,
This song I didn't quite get. I didn't get any of it, musically nor lyrically. I was just a bit. It's like okay, it's coming after
mm,
between 2 points. You're kind of on this bit of a crescendo. It's just the way it ends the song as well. It's they always say leave the audience, or no, what's it? Wanting a little bit more at the end, and then this is what comes
yeah,
after it, and
yeah.
it's like a real anticlimax.
It is anticlimactic, I agree. And then I don't know if you watched the video, but this image in the
Mm.
corner, what's that about? These two almost skeletal faces, like it's almost like the two heads on the Division Bell cover facing each other, like talking at each other, but it's
No,
not that. I don't know what this is. It's almost like a shadow play or something. What
there's a
does that
kind of
have to do
hint
with the
of
song?
Nosferatu to it there. Maybe that's just with the
Nosferatu.
light. I don't know, or maybe because
Yeah,
Nosferatu is just coming out in the movie theaters, or it's already out. But I don't know whether that was just one of those things that was in my head. But it looked a little bit like that, or is it the Hamlet thing when he's talking to the
to the
skull?
skull, Yorick
Yorick skull,
skull.
thank you.
I mean,
I just don't know,
I
right? I know,
don't
me
get
too.
it. And it's supposed to be about, according to the explanation, it's about their relationship, like the Mr. and Ms. Gilmour's relationship, supposedly. Like,
Well, I'm happy for them if
at
they
some
have
point
dark
they
and
said
velvet nights.
goodbye.
Great, but
Yeah,
yeah,
good for them. But as Roger said in a tweet, Hey, you got to feel bad for Gilmour, because how would you like to wake up to that every
Tit for
morning?
tat. Eh?
Yeah,
I don't
I
really have
mean,
anything else to say
you want
other
to
than
get
that.
down in the
The
mud.
center image is maybe you can tell us about that.
Well, this is his beat up
Of
Telecaster.
which it is very
So
beat up.
that's,
It's not
yeah, and
relic. It's
that's
not
good. I
relic.
mean,
It's originally like that.
yeah, it's like Willie Nelson's
Mm.
Trigger. Um, Not quite that bad, but yeah, it's pretty beat up. I see him in the video using it, so I assume it's on the record. But then he's also using this. You mentioned this, the Gibson hollow body ES. Is it 335?
37 or 39. What? Yeah.
It's something, yeah. So that's nice. He's using all the gear again. That's good that he doesn't just rely on
What
one
did you
axe.
think of the
He's like
production on the album then, Mark? Since
experimenting
we
with
don't have
different
anything
sounds.
really to say about the song in particular, what did you think about the production or the introduction of the new producer?
I mean, uh, he doesn't fuck anything up, I guess you could say, but I don't know that he
I did
helped him create a
too
new
much, but
sound.
no.
Yeah, apparently he brought in the guy who did the score, and he brought in the keyboard player, which you
Mm.
know, this guy's supposedly a bit avant-garde. I didn't really hear that. Those things didn't
I
really
don't know
stand out
any
to me.
Alt J was in the band or he produced the band. I wasn't really familiar with this
Right.
guy at all.
Not at all. Not
But
at
yeah, I think
all.
you're right.
But
He
it's,
didn't fuck
it's
anything up.
good.
No.
He didn't fuck anything up. It's kind of like when Paul McCartney, actually Roger Waters worked with him too. Nigel
Yeah, he
Godrich,
did
the
Radiohead stuff.
Radiohead guy. Yeah. So like, it's good when these older guys try to work with younger guys, I guess, you know. He didn't dig up Bob Ezrin or somebody to produce, if he's even still alive. I don't know.
So yeah,
He's
Dark and
not.
I have no idea, man. But Dark and Velvet Nights, yeah, it's a bit of a filler.
Another fart
Yeah.
in the wind. Look at the formatting on this. I very carefully centered all this, and then Google Slides just jacks it up. That's really annoying. I guess it looks okay full screen, but All right, so that brings us to track 8, which is called Sings. Um, Kind of a meditation on mortality, I guess. Darling, hold back the clock. Give me time, make it stop. Kind of reminds me of the time on, Dark Side Redux, right? Um,
Mm.
Apparently, there's like an ambient, well, I don't know, I guess a sample of Charlie the Magpie Boy as a young boy, as basically a baby, or you know, pre-K aged kid, babbling about something, sing daddy sing, or something like that, and he put that somewhere in the middle of this track and said, oh, it fit perfectly. And I'm like, okay,
Sure.
well, I
Right.
don't
He
know
might
what
be
that
being a bit
adds, but if you
nostalgic.
say so. Yeah.
Well, I actually wrote my very
Um,
short notes for this song were least fave. That was it.
yeah, we've got about 2 or 3 that are vying for that position of least favorite, now that I think about it.
Without going over old ground again,
Um,
lyrically, it's not, doesn't really add much in the way of, it doesn't say a great deal to me anyway. Musically,
Not at
it's a bit
all.
here or there.
Well, give him 1 point for including the Jumbush. I think that's how
There's
it's
a lot of
pronounced.
inlets
This
going
is
on
like
there.
yeah. And what's that called on the S? Oh, that diacritical mark. I know what that's called, but I forget. But it's basically a Turkish banjo. So that's nice. It's just like with the interesting world music instrumentation that we had in Dark Side Redux. So that I always give credit for that.
I've got this
It's
lying around,
I like
it's
that.
kind of let's see if we can fit it on somewhere.
Put
Yeah.
it in. Yeah, I don't know how prominent it is in the mix, but the fact that he included it, I
Hmm.
like that. I'm happy. I'm happy about that. I like world music type, um, sensibilities. But yeah, otherwise,
I think one of the
not much to
themes is
say
the
about it.
album as we go through the album track by track is the inclusion of family members become a bit more prominent. So this one's got his or their son in it. Obviously, we talked about a daughter. Polly Sampson's throughout the
Mm,
album, and there seems to be this kind of thread running through it now that it's a family affair, or more of a family affair.
absolutely.
Now, whether you want
Yeah.
to call that a vanity project, I don't think it's an ego thing. Not Gilmour doesn't seem obviously sound like we know him, right? But he doesn't seem very egotistical. I'm sure there is some ego there, being a rock star and all. But whereas I
Mm.
think Roger Waters' personality just comes across as a bit more abrasive or egotistical, if you will, right? That's not really a criticism. It's just an observation.
I mean, well, about Gilmore, that's what's disappointing because he's always seemed like a gentle, kind, reasonable, smart guy, and so it's just so disappointing to see him do
Kind
this,
of pandering to the
like
crowd,
air out this, yeah, and airing out this dirty laundry publicly, really gross, and just being
Hmm.
manipulated by his wife. It's like, come on, man. Roger, I don't call Roger egotistical. I just think he's got a point of view and he's not afraid to use his platform to express it. So again, I'm biased because I'm Team Roger. So just because I agree with him politically, I
Hmm.
think he's much more informed and much smarter about things, and so he has earned the right to speak about certain things. And Gilmore is just like parroting stupid mainstream bullshit. So I don't, that's very unfortunate. But yeah, about the family thing in general, I'm in favor of that. As I'll point out when we talk about lessons learned. But let's move on to the last official track on the album, which is Scattered. This is something about sand scattering. So, okay, the sands of time slip through our fingers. I don't know. I didn't analyze the lyrics closely. It's just more of her fucking, MFA in creative writing bullshit. But these lines at the end were interesting just because they seem to be a callback to something. It says, I stand in a river, push against the stream. Time is a tide that disobeys, and it disobeys me. Those are some lame lines. Time is a tide that disobeys? Okay. I interrupted the flow. Sorry. I stand in a river, push against the stream. Time is a tide that disobeys, and it disobeys me. It never ends. And of course, this reminded me not only of the album cover, which features this man with his
Hmm.
arms outstretched like in a river or stream. Again, there's a callback to time and mortality, suggestion of
The
mortality.
scattering of ashes, maybe.
Um, Scattering of ashes could be, but then, river never ends. I mean, it
The river of
reminds us of the
life.
last official, yeah, but also the last official Pink
Hmm.
Floyd album,
Endless
The
river.
Endless
Hmm.
River, which, she wrote, I guess she wrote the lines in that song High Hopes, which mentions the endless river. And that, that's beautiful. What she wrote for that song and that song itself, that's amazing. There's nothing of that caliber here on this album, in my opinion. But yeah, it seemed like an obvious callback to the endless river and that phrase which comes from the division bell, so kind of like that. But again, musically, nope, not nothing I can
I
remember.
actually wrote, if you want to
Lyrically,
know my one liner, because
I do. Please,
I wrote the
yeah.
most Floyd song. I'll start again. The most Floyd song on the album. That's what I wrote.
Really? Okay. How so?
Just from a lyrical, musical point of view, both together. This is what I thought
Hmm.
would be a way to end the album. Like we started it with, we'll have to go back and find out what it was called. The first track, Black Cat, of course. Yes,
Black
and
Cat. Yeah, yeah.
this is the kind of last song, is it? Well, it's not really. It's the second last, I think, right? There's one more after this.
Well, well officially no. This is the last song on the actual
Right.
album, but there are two more tracks
The
on the so-called
digital one, yeah, right.
digital album.
So
Yeah.
that I thought this was a kind of ending piece of the Black Cat was a kind of precursor to what was to come musically, at least musically.
Mm-hmm.
This was the signature song out.
So you
I
like this
liked it,
one?
yeah.
Okay. Maybe I need to listen again. And maybe I was put off by the lyrics other than, this last bit. I like when artists, writers cannibalize themselves and like recycle. We talked about this in the last episode. I like it when they, you know, repurpose or reimagine, as
Mm.
Roger Waters would say, old material. So they seem to be doing that here. So I kind of appreciated that, but musically I wasn't that moved. Maybe I need to
I
listen
think Floyd
again.
fans of a certain persuasion might be quite okay with this song and how it
Hmm.
sounds and the kind of it doesn't do anything revolutionary or anything. I don't want to use the word weird, but
Right.
it's just kind of here's the end.
Yeah.
Fits the bill, you know.
Well, okay, so yeah, it's a good. I mean, it's an
An
appropriate
appropriate ending. Yeah.
ending piece lyrically. Yeah, it's appropriate. So the two other tracks that were mentioned, these are from the so-called digital edition. So if you play the album on Spotify, you'll hear these, but it doesn't explain that they're like bonus tracks, which is kind of annoying. But number 10, track 10, the first of these extra tracks, number 10 is Yes, I Have Ghosts. And this is with Romany again. I keep wanting to call her Gypsy. Um, in the Stevie Nicks
Right.
sense. Okay, it's not a diss. It says it's originally, this is from Wikipedia, originally recorded for the audiobook edition of Samson's 2020 novel, A Theater for
Which we've all
Dreamers,
read.
which I'll never read. Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah. She should have called it An Academy for Dreamers, and then it would be like a callback to her husband's 1980s production work. But yeah, no one's gonna read that. But it did give me an interesting idea, like, hey man, maybe that's a good way to pimp your audio books, include like some music. Or how about this? Here's the idea I had. I was inspired. How about, I've talked about like writing liner
Mhm.
notes to my albums. What if like the audiobook version included the liner notes, right? Like I read the liner notes and then it includes the track too. So it's like an album and an audiobook in one. Like I don't know if those platforms will allow that, but she did it, so why can't I?
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like maybe that's a better way to promote one's music. No one cares about new musical artists, right? But people love audiobooks, right? So if they downloaded like the audiobook, let's say it was, I promoted it in a free giveaway, like for a limited time. And then like they download the liner notes, right? And then not only do they get the music as well, but they get the explanation. Maybe they appreciate that. They can really get into the music. I don't know. I think it's worth a
Worth
try.
exploring, I think. Musically, what did you think of the song?
I listened once because it wasn't officially part of the album. I didn't pay it much attention. I mean, her voice sounds good.
I like the title actually.
Kind of,
yes, we have. Yes, I have ghosts. I like the title of that. It's a very folky,
it sounds like.
It's an acoustic-driven track, we should say.
Yes.
Very folky, out with it being an acoustic track, but it has a kind of real pentangle or 1960s, late 60s kind of a hippie vibe to it.
Oh, yeah.
If you listen to it maybe more than just the once or twice that you said you might hear a few more things. But it's a nice track to put on the end of
pentangle.
it. Yeah, that kind of.
That's a good reference. What's your favorite pentangle?
You've put me on the spot, man. I'm going to have
notes?
to take the fifth on this one, but I shall come back to it.
Well, if you text me one and I'll put it in the show notes. Like, are they kind of like Fairport Convention?
Bert Jansch was in Pentangle, if I remember rightly.
Bert Jansch.
I think Bert Jansch was in Pentangle. I might be talking complete bollocks, but it won't be the first time, so don't be disappointed, dear listener.
Well, let's look that up. Yeah, let's look that up.
Because Richard Thompson was in Fairport Convention.
Exactly.
Who's coming to Dortmund this year, actually, Richard Thompson.
I would go see him. He played on some Nick Drake albums, I think.
He did a lot of with his ex-wife as well and all that
session
stuff.
work.
Anyway, we digress. But the song itself, it's all right. It's a nice addition at the end. It's a bit folky. Her voice sounds great. The playing on it's really nice.
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah, once again, Romany, a shining star.
I think it gives his voice a break as well.
She writes.
It's
What's that?
The way that they've used her voice, or in the sense of how many tracks she appears on, that she's not. It's still a David Gilmour album with Romany Gilmour, in that sense. Yeah. So he's given her a platform, and she shines, as you said, really well. So it's not just a kind of an add-on thing. You get, here's my daughter who can sing a little bit. I mean, she actually takes center stage in the songs that she appears in, or at least duets with in this sense.
Yeah, beautiful voice. He kind of Claire Terry's her, right? Like, is that her name?
The backup vocal or the session vocalist from Great Gig in the Sky.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's just not that Romany is only vocalizing, like she's singing actual lyrics and everything, but it's only one track that she's featured on. She's doing background vocals on quite a few tracks and harping it up and so on, but she's really only featured on one, kind of like Great Gig in the Sky only has that one showcase for Claire. It's Claire Terry, so. Right? I'm remembering her name correctly. Yeah. So that's really nice, and it is appropriate, and it feels right. It's just the interesting thing is, like, that is, I think, for both of us, the best track on the David Gilmour album, so make of that what you will. Track 11, I actually like this very much, man. Some people, like rock fans, might think, God, this is kind of long, but to me, this is like, Miles Davis in a Silent Way, or Bitches Brew or something, man. It's like a jazz rock fusion group, it's quite interesting, and they're just on that same,
just the same groove.
It's basically yeah, the same groove for like, what is it, 17
Right.
minutes or whatever. It's a really nice
I mean, it's a nicely
jam.
produced jam. You and I have played in some jam sessions that have been a bit more eclectic, shall we say? Well, in a good way, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. But this sounds like
Yeah.
a nicely produced, everything's pristine and it's all very professionally, obviously professionally done, but the way if you can have such a thing as an organized jam, then this is what it sounds like.
Yeah,
Without
I mean,
decrying from the actual
but
performance itself, I don't mean that as a criticism. It's not a jam by numbers, for example. It's just a very kind of but they sound like they're having a nice time as well. There's no vocals here.
yeah, yeah, they're laughing at the end, and yeah,
20 minutes
just,
when you're having a good time with your
I
music buddies is time well spent, right? It's nothing,
yeah.
20 minutes.
And that barn looks
Right,
awesome, man. How would you like to play music in that
get up to
place?
Dave's house.
So it's just yeah, exactly. It's just, is that where
I
it
don't
was? I
know.
didn't know where the barn was
Some
located.
rich guy with a barn, right?
Probably, yeah.
It's
Yeah, there you go. But the fact that, it's a nice tribute to
Mm-hmm.
Rick Wright, and it's just interesting how they cobbled together Luck and Strange from, I mean, part of it at least. Like they took this bit and then they added other bits. I don't know how they matched the sonic template. Like it wasn't, I don't know, it wasn't the same drummer, was it? Not the same musicians.
no.
I guess Gilmour used the same guitar, but then like on the chorus and the bridge, they had to use a different keyboardist. I think it was synthesizers, so maybe that's how maybe they sampled his
Some
sound
kind of
and used
electronic
that.
wizardry.
Yes, but it's yeah, it's just like a jazz rock fusion jam. I mean, and Floyd never got that jazzy, Maybe that's because Waters
let
is
them,
not as funky. Yeah, maybe. They're just more like experimental, psychedelic. Of course, they had a lot of jams, I mean, and long jams, but they're not as jazz rock fusion-esque, if we can say that. So this was, I quite like this. The first time I heard it, I was like, man, this is kind of long. But the more I got into it and listened more closely, I was like, man, they're really playing off each other well. And it kind of reminds me of some, what's his name? John McLaughlin era Miles Davis groups, So nice addition to the
Like it's a kind
digital
of it's like a
edition.
super group that no one actually knows exists. They just play this kind of stuff in a pub somewhere in deepest darkest Cambridgeshire or Brighton or wherever they live, and they seem to have quite a nice time doing it.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, so as we wrap this up, let's talk about lessons learned. I've included a few. Maybe you saw them, but let me give you a chance to give your insights here. So again, with Guitar and Pen, we want to know, what can we learn as songwriters, musicians, producers, or just audiophiles in general, like regular music fans? What have we learned from this listening experience and analysis?
If I take the perspective of a Pink Floyd fan, right? So I would say I'm a Pink Floyd fan, but let's speak for the masses. Right,
Me
there we
too.
go, right on. So they might not be 100% convinced by this album, and on the other hand, not 100% disappointed in the album. So there's kind of, as we've just gone through it track by track, but there are tracks on there that are very Floyd-esque. So from a musical point of view, I think he's tried to kind of cover a lot of bases. He's trying to take some of that, let's call them Floydisms, and put them into this album. He's maybe had them hanging around for God knows how many years, and now he's found somewhere to put them. So that's great. Some of the other tracks that we talked about that are a bit neither here nor there. They're just kind of inconsequential. They're just album fillers, whatever way you want to call them. They're disappointing. There's nothing really of note to them. So, from a negative point of view, that might be something Floyd fans might take on board. Lyrically, as we've said, Polly Sampson doesn't really add anything to the party, regardless of our bias or not. But I don't think she adds well to anything, or adds anything of great note or structure.
I agree. And I gave her credit for Division Bell. I think some of the lyrics on that are pretty solid.
I mean, just because
like
someone says something, this is
I,
actually a thing about, sorry to interrupt you, it's one of the things about Roger Waters. He kind of opens his mouth and then says something, and then it sticks. Or it seems to be that that's where the criticisms come from. Roger Waters has kind of opened up and said whatever it is about whatever situation he's talking about, and then after that, therefore, it's stuck. Right? So even if he probably didn't say it, or people are paraphrasing or putting words in his mouth, that's where we are now. He might not have said it, but that's, people just believe it anyway, right? They're like, oh, well, he must have said it because... there's a lot of kind of things on this album where, as I mentioned earlier, would it really make any difference if we knew this was his wife contributing to the lyrics or not? I mean, from a... I don't know. So maybe that is a bias. I don't know. I don't have the album sleeve to go through all the lyrics with them and to enjoy it that way, or to kind of to look at it from a different perspective. I just feel I'm a bit conflicted because I think, yeah, I'm a bit biased because I don't think she adds anything to the party, right? So I'm a bit like, well, okay, that might just be me.
well, I have something to add to that in a minute, but before we get to the lessons that I learned from this, let's first take his comment that this is the best thing he's done since Dark Side. We agree that's fucking ludicrous, right? I mean, that's absurd. Okay. So no doubt about that. I mean, that's delusional
now,
if he thinks
there might be a thing here where he says the best, but what he actually means is the most fun he had making it.
Yeah, maybe. That right. I can believe. Because
it looks like they're having a nice time making the record itself. Nice locations and huge big studios or rehearsal rooms or cathedrals or I mean it was from that point of view. Anyway, so that's, sorry to interrupt you, man. Go on, please.
And it's interesting. It's interesting to see all the documentary videos about it. I enjoyed that. And I just wanted to say that Tomek, in one of his comments, did you?
I can't see them.
Lose me there. Oh, it says trying to reconnect. I don't know what's going on. Make sure you have a stable internet connection. I do. I think I do. Okay, I'm back. So, yeah, Tomek said that really all projects are vanity projects, so we shouldn't necessarily consider that like a pejorative, and I kind of agree. So I don't fault him for, being the millionaire rock star, having fun with his family and musician friends. Good for him. I'm totally fine with that. Yeah. But the other question is, since these are like companion albums, at least in terms of our listening experiences, we're listening to the two main dudes from Pink Floyd, their recent productions on the occasion of the 50th anniversary of Dark Side. Like, if we compare and contrast Dark Side, Redux, and Luck and Strange, like, which one comes out on top, I guess? Like, which do you prefer and why?
There are some duffers on Redux, or some tracks that just don't work as well, but I think Luck and Strange probably has one or two more tracks on it that don't work. So I'd probably say Redux is probably the winner just because of the quality of the songs.
Really interesting. I surprisingly, even though I'm Team Roger, just in terms of the listening experience, I'm more likely to listen again to Luck and Strange, or at least certain tracks on it.
Absolutely.
I
So the
think,
standout tracks, as we've talked about here on it, are brilliant. They're great. Really, really good. As good
okay, okay.
as he's done, I would say. At least one or two of the tracks on our way. They're standout tracks. But
And that would be Between 2 Points and what else?
the Piper's Calling.
Yes, maybe. And parts of Luck and Strange. Again, except for the lyrics. That's the problem.
It's like the
always.
Achilles heel,
But yeah.
But I think the
that's
actual,
problem. But definitely Between 2
I think
Points
the
for
the
sure.
quality of the songs or the music or the strength of the songs on Dark Side of the Moon are something that still make it stand out as much. Some of the interpretations of the songs, bit hit or miss, but there's a lot of there's 3 or 4 fillers on this album I found. Looking Strange, and they were just a bit inconsequential. I wasn't really too. I'm reaching for the fast forward button. I'm like, okay, I've listened to this once or twice for my art, and now I don't have to listen to it anymore. I was a bit like that.
And in a way, my first impression was right. It's just like, this is unnecessary, you know. Like there's nothing. Like with the Dark Side Redux, you could say, okay, he's like recommunicating this very important message, and like modernizing it, and we need it at this time. But what does Luck and Strange tell us lyrically, conceptually? Like, it just falls flat in that sense for me. Like as an idea, as a concept, like, you know, what are they saying that's relevant to this, to our
as
world?
we talked about,
like,
those themes of mortality or the beginning of the end, as it were, right? You know, that kind of last phase of your life, and all of those kind of themes that they talk about. But they don't really talk, or they, I suppose we can say they, right? They don't really talk about it in a way that lasts very long. It's all a bit kind of lightweight or insignificant.
Not in a profound,
no, there's nothing profound.
In a profound way, right?
That's a better way to put it. There's nothing profound in this.
And so in that sense, like, the lesson of the Dark Side Redux time is more timely, more relevant. I mean, it's also an eternal message, but like that idea of mortality and so on is better communicated by the Dark Side Redux. So I'm starting to like switch my opinion here. I'm almost like thinking that I should give the nod in this artificial competition to Dark Side Redux. Of course, it's not either or. We can listen to both, but
I often wonder, you know, when they're putting an album together, artists of any type, what goes on the cutting room floor. You know, what songs didn't make it, and how many other big booming guitar tracks, or rather tracks with you know, big gutsy guitar parts on it didn't quite make the album, you know, for whatever reason.
right.
Will we get them on not a remix album, obviously, but you know what I mean? Will we get them on a remastered edition at some point? Or yes, you know, the kind of the dog's bollocks or whatever you want to call it. It'll be a bit of this and a bit of that. But yeah, I'm often curious about that, because some of the songs are just a bit, you know,
Half full of hollow.
if only.
All right. Well, here are the lessons that I gleaned for what they're worth. Seek a balance of sound and vision. So on this particular album, of course, I think we've got more sound than vision. Like there's not a balance. So that, to me, that's a fault. And if I'm striving to produce something, I'm going to try to achieve a balance of sound and vision. And you could maybe apply this to Roger's album too. There's more vision than sound, right? So if like, and maybe that's why Pink Floyd was so great in the original Dark Side, because you had this balance of sound
Just
and
that
vision,
kind of perfect
right?
balance.
Perfect balance, yeah. So that's probably something we should aim for. I like the notion of making music with those you love. I've got a picture here. Oh, by the way, the sound and vision pick, for those not watching, of course, that was Bowie, who came up with the concept. But on this slide, the make music with those you love slide, we've got Paul and Linda. That's another analogy, I like the idea of couples, families making music. I mean, my dream was to have like a family band, and my second son, I think I told you, is a drummer. He's in the last several years started playing drums. He has a band in Houston called Acid Affair, and he plays with some other people locally, and my dream is to have him come here and play on one of the I albums. So in theory, I love this idea of making music with people you love.
It might all kind of come from the Von Trapp family syndrome, the sound of music and all that. It's kind of...
You know what? I thought about putting that image here instead of...
and everybody loves the sound of music, Mark, so I don't really see what the problem is. I think...
I've got to put that in the show notes. Yeah, make music with those you love, and then a picture of the Von Trapp singers. You're right. Yes, absolutely. I mean, it's a beautiful thing, isn't it? Just like I'm happy for them that
they were able to do it.
They have this vanity project which is sustainable, and like they can take their kids on the road. I just find the mother hen to be pretty, repulsive, unfortunately. Okay, and then finally, so make music with those you love, but also choose your collaborators wisely. And I've got 3 pictures here. Roger Waters, of course, who is, whether he likes it or not or admits it or not, that was your best collaborator, Dave. I'm sorry, you were at your best when you were working with him and you two were getting along. And then in the middle, we've got Pete Townsend. I talked about how he contributed lyrics to About Face. I think that was a brilliant partnership. And then, do you know who the third guy is here?
It's Ice-T, right? And I don't know. I won't.
Yes.
I'll let you explain what the collaboration is here. I know what it is, but I'll let you.
Did I send you that video?
But I'd heard about it.
No. Okay. So
I think I read some Ice-T
research
interviews and why he did it. But anyway, the flow's all yours, Mark.
Well, what did he say? Tell me. He
was just talking about the song and why he chose it, and what it means, and why it's important.
Go ahead.
Well,
what's the song?
That's Comfortably Numb.
Yeah.
At least I hope it is.
And Gilmour actually plays on it, but he's
it's Ice-T Body Count, I think.
Body Count. He has a kind of metal rap group.
I've seen Ice-T in Body Count
group.
many years ago in Glasgow.
You
Must
saw
have
him
been
live.
mid-90s.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't. It's a very, very long time ago.
How was
Loud.
Yeah.
And fast. It was a full-on experience. I don't, must have been 93, 94?
I didn't even know about it.
It's a very long time ago.
I didn't even know about it until, I discovered that they did a cover of Comfortably Numb with really interesting lyrics, and apparently Gilmour signed off on it. Not only signed off on it, but played on it. He said, "I like it. I love your version." And then he's like soloing over the whole thing, playing with his band.
Having fun.
That's great.
Assumably.
Yeah. Sounds good. And I don't know. Did Roger have to sign off on it too?
Oh, maybe that's one for the lawyers, man. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. But it's great that I mean that's the kind of thing I like to see. Do something new, do something you haven't done before,
But the song still means
Like
something.
include a
Obviously, or evidently, the song still says something to so many people. And all
yeah.
you, well, no, I'm not going to say it, not all you're doing, but what you, Ice-T and Body Count in this sense are doing it, they're bringing it back again, but with an additional message to it, a more
Well,
updated
it's
message.
exactly well, it's exactly what Waters did, right? They reimagined the
Yeah,
classic. So that's yeah, so that's it's I really like that. I'm very happy that that collaboration took place. So, yeah, choose your collaborators wisely. I mean, let's put it this way: Polly Sampson is no Ice-T, or Pete Townsend or Roger Waters. So that's just the unfortunate truth. All right, next on Guitar and Pen. This one may surprise you, but I'm going to discuss Samuel Beckett's Words and Music. It's actually Samuel Beckett and Morton Feldman, who is a modern classical composer. I don't know if you want to join me on this one, but I I'm interested in the way he deals with the idea of sound and vision, right? Words and music. Like as a literary guy, what is the role of music? Is there any lesson that the songwriter can learn from Samuel Beckett's words and music? And Tomek says, "What up, Ice-T?" Tomek, this is when you might want to join me and or Craig on, since you're a Beckett fan. But Samuel Beckett's words and music. If I have to fly solo, I'll do it. You're welcome to join, Craig, if you have the time and
I
interest.
shall go and. Have you got a link to the? Anyway, we'll talk about that. Yeah, no problem. You
Yeah,
can
it's
all
on
right,
YouTube, but
because
yeah,
I
I'll
don't know.
find
I
it.
don't know
Yeah,
anything about it.
okay,
I don't. I've never. I know who Samuel Beckett is, but that's where it begins
right,
and ends.
okay. Well, if you're down for it, that's great. Tomek, you're welcome too, and anyone else. You love Beckett, yeah? Well, check it out. I've read the play, but the music, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see
It's an
how that
interesting
works.
cover, anyway.
I mean,
Right?
he.
And WDR is the German station,
Oh yeah, okay.
or
And so,
VDR,
oh
if I'm
okay,
using my best German
right.
pronunciation, which
VDL.
is the region I'm in. That's where we get it.
Yes.
But this.
Tomek says would love a threesome. Okay,
Okay,
then.
I don't want to
I guess.
disappoint them, so see if I can get my
Yeah.
head to fit in this
I
box,
guess
man.
we'll
The next
talk
one, I keep
Beckett.
moving my head away over here, and when I look at the camera, I need to sit at a really weird angle.
Yeah, you're perfectly
Yeah,
framed
it's
now.
really annoying because I have to
Yeah.
sit like this and I can't move. But when we put it in the other format, it actually looked okay.
Well, I know that's the thing. On the live stream, it looks different from the edited version. I don't know why. I got to talk to Riverside
Uncannily, I
about
can't
that
fit
and
this huge head in a
many other
small box,
things.
Mark. Who would have thought?
Nah, it looks good. All right, so yeah, we'll wrap it up here. This has been episode 6. Our topic was David Gilmour's Luck and Strange. Check out also episode 5, which was Roger Waters' Dark Side of the Moon Redux. I'm Mark Will. You can subscribe to my newsletter at markwillwrite, WRITE.substack.com. This is also streaming now on YouTube. There will be an edited version as well. It's not either or, it's both and. Go to the live tab for all the live streams. Go to videos for all the edited videos. Nice and pretty, cut up and chopped up, and our faces all looking framed perfectly, and the little Guitar and Pen logo, which I took so much time and trouble to create, will be in the lower right hand corner, I assume. And what do you want to promote, Craig? Craig is the host of the Can't Find My Way Home podcast.
You can still find a lot of episodes
And
on there. Couple with your good self, Mark.
I'm in one or two, yeah, sounding like an idiot in one of them because of my bad audio quality. But look at me now with my blue
Sail
snowball
out.
mic and my fucking earpieces. I even got a ring light over here. I'm like professional
Way to go,
now.
man.
Gotta do what you gotta do to monetize that YouTube
But I'm
channel.
looking forward to
So
the next one with
we're working
with
on
you and
that.
Tomek, whenever that'll be in the next few weeks.
Sounds good. And then we'll get into some Bowie and Black Sabbath and whatever else.
Joy Division.
I mean, feel free to recommend some. Yes. We got to do the Joy Division.
And,
Maybe start with that.
Roxy Music.
Roxy Music, for sure.
What was the Roxy Music song we were going to do?
There's no reason we can't do all of them. Well, we could either do Siren, or we could just start with,
I think it was from, the song was from, it was just one song you sent me, but it's completely gone out of my...
Oh, was it Just Another High from Siren? I mean, that's one of my favorites, but we could do a whole album.
Next time we go back and look at it. But yes, there are more than enough choice, I would say.
Yeah. Tomek might be down for Joy Division too. He just said Joy Division ! So we'll see. All right. Thanks to everybody on the live stream. Be sure to like, be sure to subscribe. It'll be on YouTube. The edited version will be on YouTube as well.
I had some comments.
Soon.
What did the listeners think of, or the viewers for that matter, think of the albums themselves? It's always good to hear some different opinions.
Exactly. Yes. Tell us we're wrong, and then we'll tell you why you're wrong. So
you sound like Polly Sampson now. The roles have reversed now, Mark.
That's right. If you don't agree with us, we're gonna call you an
You're cancelled.
Yeah, you're canceled. Tomek asks Velvet Underground. Sure. For sure.
Oh, speaking of bias, right?
Fan, are you?
No.
Yeah. No, you don't like Lou Reed at all, I remember.
Oh, yeah. It's a difficult relationship.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a drummer thing, or their lack of. But speaking of bias,
Sorry to all the Maureen Tucker fans out there. Did you hear my song Toxic Together? That was like intended as a kind of Velvet Underground tribute, or I don't know, I shouldn't say tribute. Like I told the musicians that I wanted like a Velvet Underground vibe. That was kind of a reference point. And so the drummer that I work with most of the time, Cody, who's a fucking badass. He wasn't a Velvet Underground fan, but he did what
was required for
Tucker
the song. Man. There we go. That's what good drummers do.
Well, but he did, but he made it his own, and so it's pretty interesting. I better put that in the show notes too.
Shameless self-promotion.
So
Matt's been a pleasure, mate.
Shameless and seamless, yeah. And so thanks to everyone else, and we'll see you next time. This has been Guitar and Pen.